Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to TokYo-Yo tutorials. My name is T. I'm going to be showing you the basic green triangle, and I'm going to show you several other GTs that are relatively simple to get into, and they're a lot of fun to do. So this is what they look like. I'm going to teach you the 4 GTs in order of the easiest to what I think is the most challenging. So here's the tutorial. The yo-yo I'll be using for today's tutorial is the Duncan Grasshopper X. And I do recommend using a yo-yo with a blasted or a smooth finish that makes grinds easier, because one of these does involve a palm grind. And the string I'll be using is the Flaming Yo from Zipline Strings. You're going to want to make sure that your string tension is as close to neutral as normal, especially with the last trick that we're going to learn today. So this is the basic GT. You're going to do kind of like a brother slack motion, but instead of going over the front of the string, you're going to go behind the string like this, over your throw hand wrist. You're going to let the string down, and that lands you in a GT. You pop out from the back, and you're done. But let's break that down into slow motion. So you throw your breakaway, you're going to land on the string, and then you're going to bring the yo-yo around back to your throw hand side behind the string. And this is going to make the trick really smooth. First of all, you're going to notice that my non-throw hand is holding the configuration very tight. And you're going to notice that I'm not letting too much string go over my wrist there. And you're also going to notice that I'm going to be moving my hand down, my throw hand, with the palm towards myself. And what that's going to do is that's going to let the string fall off my hand very effortlessly. You're going to notice the yo-yo is going over, I'm turning my hand more towards myself, and that's going to let that string just roll right off, land us right in our basic GT. Just like that. It's a bit of a tricky motion to get down at first, but it looks really cool once you get it down perfectly. Pop it out the back and you're done. This is our second GT we're going to learn. This is a wrist mount or cheese whip into a GT. That's what it looks like. Let's break it down in slow motion. So you're going to get into your cheese whip or your wrist mount, either way that you like to do it. There's another tutorial that I have on that, so go check that out if you haven't already learned your wrist mount and your cheese whip. So here we are into our wrist mount. And what you're going to do is take your non-throw hand and you're going to push into that string on the right as if you were doing a dismount from the wrist mount. You're only going to do the first motion. You're going to see here into that first motion, then you're going to let the string off of your throw hand, and you're right there into a green triangle. You're going to pop it out the back and you are done with this green triangle. This GT I think is a bit tricky, so bear with me. You're basically getting into your wrist mount or your cheese whip like before, and you're going to do kind of a Buddha's revenge motion. You're going to move your wrist mount all the way over to the other side, and that lands you in a GT. Let's break it down into slow motion. You're getting into your wrist mount. Here I do a regular wrist mount instead of a cheese whip. And what helps you move the configuration over is you take your non-throw hand and you push into that right string there. You kind of hold that finger taut, making sure you don't let go, and you're going to move the whole thing over like Buddha's revenge, and you're going to let the string go off of your throw hand. You can see here I'm letting it go off of my throw hand, but you're still keeping your non-throw hand pointer in there, keeping that configuration tight, and that lands you in a GT. Now the dismount can be a little tricky, so you can see here I'm kind of bringing the string out, away, and popping the yo-yo out the back. That could be a little bit of a tricky maneuver, but once you get it down, it's a pretty cool GT to land in. Now this is Kobe. This is a Paul Kerbal trick. You're going to get into your trapeze, then you're going to bring the yo-yo over back to your throw hand side behind the string, land in a palm grind, then throw the yo-yo over the string into a GT. So you're getting into your trapeze and you're bringing the yo-yo over, sort of like jade whip. You want to bring the yo-yo to your hand, but you want to make sure you don't swing it too high. You want to make sure you bring the yo-yo to your hand, and your hand should be waiting so that there's not a big thud when the yo-yo lands in your hand. You're going to bring your hands closer together. You can see here, so you don't have to throw the yo-yo too far. You can see that I want to put the yo-yo onto the string that's coming off of my non-throw hand, the string that's farther away. You can see here I'm kind of moving my thumb and away from my other fingers to kind of separate those strings out to make sure you have a lot of space to throw onto that string. Just plop it onto that front string right there and you're good, you're in a green triangle. You're going to pop this one out of the front and you've completed Kobe. Let's take another look at that one. You can see it's a pretty quick trick. And you want to make sure you use a yo-yo with a really nice finish or really nice blast that grinds well, because this does require you to grind on your palm. You can see here I'm using my thumb to separate the string from the rest of my fingers to make that string open up. It'll make it a little bit easier for you to catch. Okay, one more time, slowed down a bit. You're in your trapeze, bring the yo-yo around, back to your throw hand side. Of course, it has to be behind the string, just like your original GT. Just like that. And that can be a tricky thing to get down at first, is making sure that you bring the string behind, because you may want to go in front of the string like most tricks, but here you're going under and behind the string, then going over it again. And that's what creates that little kink in the string. Again, you pop it out the front and you're golden. This trick actually looks a lot more complex than it is. I think once you do it a couple times, it's quite easy to do, and Paul Kerbel even does a couple tosses back and forth between his two hands before he lands it in the GT, which is pretty cool. So practice, 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 and enjoy. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Green triangles are a lot of fun to get into and to get out of, but don't get frustrated if you get a lot of knots. That's bound to happen. Once you get them down, they're smooth, they're flashing, they're a lot of fun to show to other people. Practice, practice, practice. Take care, have a nice day, and sayonara.